Hello and welcome. We have the tradition at our house that we start off Christmas by setting up our Christmas tree early in November. So it's already Christmas at our house, and so I've decided to get my Christmas journal set up. I am just giving you a quick view of the Christmas journals I've made over the past few years. It's something I started in 2018 and something which I do differently every year depending on my time demands and my energy levels and what sort of journaling I'm really interested in at the moment. And this year I've decided on a tiny little junk journal, which hopefully speaks to you of my energy levels this year are quite low, but also I'm really loving junk journals, and I have this cute little book which sort of has a pinkish red cover and it says calm, and I'm like, that sounds very Christmas appropriate, and I think it's a good feeling to embrace, so I think that that's pretty nice. I'm just starting off by cutting the pages out, and I'm carefully as I can without it being too difficult separating out the pages, just because they're quite pretty and I feel like I'm going to reuse some of them in the junk journal. I love the fact that some of them are bold red. Probably most of it will be covered over, so I'm not too worried about what they say on the inside. But I do want to utilize these papers, and probably the way I've decided to do it is to keep it quite simple, so little bits of the page color will stick out around the edges. But I'm just pulling all of these apart. I probably won't use the outside page from each of the signatures, just because I've been fairly rough getting it apart, and because there's lots of glue on it, it'll be quite messy and it's ripped a bit more, but I'm still tidying them up a bit because you never know, I may use them for something else. Once I've set this book up, any leftover pieces will go into a container which I call small paper, and that way next time I'm looking for small paper for a project, I will dig through there. I always like to strengthen my book spines with PVA glue and a piece of fabric when I do this. It just gives me some peace of mind knowing that it will be a bit sturdy, and I love the look of having the raw edged fabric there. I feel like it adds to the junk journal feel for me. These inside end papers are just fine, so I'm just ignoring them. I may end up decorating things with stickers because I do absolutely love stickers. So the next thing is I'm going to pick out, I've already collected some papers from my paper containers and some tiny paper pads, which I love. But I'm just going to pick out the papers I think I'm going to use for the inside. I have to not get too excited and not pick out too many because it's quite small. But I want to give myself enough pages so that I can record some of the things that are going on during our December prep and activities and celebrations. So I've just measured the pages, the book pages, just because I'm going to mostly make it match. There are a couple of these pages which are a little bit smaller, but I just really liked the papers, and so I've put a few smaller pages in as well, which I think is fine. But I'm just trimming them all down so that I can make signatures with them. I don't actually know how many I want to make yet. I'm just gonna play it by ear and see how we go. This pink paper is beautiful, but it's a little bit small, but I'm going to include it anyway. And just basically trimming down all the pages so that I can have them in there, being careful to make sure that directional papers have been cut the appropriate way so that they're not sideways. The next step, once I have all of these signatures cut, is to start laying things out and planning how it's all going to fit. So I'm just starting off by thinking about how I might want it to look, what sort of mixture I would like to have. I'm contemplating adding in other papers as well, so I do have a nice collection of lined pages and pages from like accounting books and things like that. And so I'm contemplating using some of those, but I decided in the end just to keep it fairly simple. I probably prefer to have most of these pages be quite colourful. I do have a few single-sided papers in here, which means there will be some white pages, and also the book pages have white pages, so I just didn't feel like adding in any extra white pages into that mix. So I decided against that. So I've just folded up all of the coloured pages that I have here, and I started off thinking that maybe I was going to separate it into 5 signatures, and so I've just done a quick sort of that, and then I'm just going to test it in the cover. So this is all very imprecise, but imprecise is the way I like to do this, because I don't like to plan it out too much. I just like to do it. And so I tested that in the cover, and it just felt a little bit tight, and I am going to be adding a lot of papers and photos and extra things into this. So even though I'm happy for the book to be quite splayed and fat when I'm finished, I just want to be mindful of the fact that I don't have as much space as I might have in a different junk journal that has quite a bit bigger spine. So I've decided to do just 4 signatures with 4 pages in each, and I'm just setting those up just so that they are all ready to go. I'm going to be using the front page. It has like a to and a from in it. I think you could like gift the book, but I really just like how that looks, and I'm going to use that as my front page, just for me to maybe write the date in or something like that, or the dates that I've recorded in, which I think will be a nice fun little touch. I've pulled out all of my little paper pads. These are all different brands. I quite often buy them after Christmas relatively inexpensively, and I just really like, I love the ones that are double-sided. They're my favorites, and they give you lots of color choices. So I'm just going through and pulling out some that appeal to me. I feel like I've got a lot of darker papers in the journal signatures, and so I'm looking for some lighter, some more colourful papers in here. I don't have a very strict colour scheme for this journal. I'm just doing whatever Christmassy colours I have, which includes all the reds and greens and bits of silver and gold, as well as some more pinks and blues, which is one of my favourite Christmas colour schemes. I've also got a whole bunch of Christmas sticker books which I have collected over the years. Sometimes I include all of them in my little kit, and sometimes I just have a few, but I find them quite useful and quite fun. And I bought these last year. They're just little sort of like washi tape stickers, but they're on a roll, and they have a piece of plastic protecting them, but it is quite difficult to get off. So I've decided to get this off now on all of these. These are like little baubles and stockings and stuff like that. So I'm a little bit concerned that they're going to rip a lot and that they're not going to separate out, but we'll see how we go when we get to making the journal. But I've always wanted to try some like this, so we will see how they go. Now I'm just actually tipping out the bag that contained my Christmas journaling kit from last year, so I didn't actually put it away, and I'm going through it and just collecting any pieces I want to keep for this kit. So some of those sticker books, as well as some paper cutouts. I think that those are quite fun as well to use, so I've got some of those that I want to keep out. There are other things that I will pack away, and just to keep everything tidy, papers that I probably won't use this time. I think it's very probable that I have collected too many things for my kit this year, just because my journal is so small, but I also really like to keep lots of choices out, so I may end up sifting through it and making it a bit smaller, this collection, as I go, if it bothers me. But sometimes I have to restock partway through as well, so it may not be bad to start off with a lot of bits. So I just have this nice clear bag which I'm using to keep everything in. I like to be able to see what's inside. I'm the sort of person where if I can't see it, I forget it exists and I don't think about it as much. But I'm grabbing all of these small papers and just trying to decide. I want to pre-do as much as possible for this, just so I don't have to get every tool out every time. So I'm just trying to decide what is going to be the nice size to have these papers, just so I don't have to have a lot of cutting tools. And I decided that was too small. Luckily though, this can go into my small papers container. I can use it another time. But what I really need is just to make this a little bit bigger, just so that I can have colour sticking out around the edges, and have it sort of more evenly fitted. So I'm just going to trim down all these papers. Ones that are double-sided I will cut 2 of, just so that I can utilise both sides. I have opportunity to use both. And so it just gives me a nice variety of papers. I think that it'll be quite fun to have all of these in here. Thinking about this now, watching back on my footage while I'm doing this voiceover, it makes me think it could be quite worthwhile to have a few blank white papers if I want to add a lot of writing or maybe something lined. So maybe I will add that in at a later time. But just trimming all of these down and making it so that it's really easy for me to sit and work at this. I feel like I'm a little bit worried that I won't spend as much time, but I really want to. I feel like it's a really nice thing to look back on the Christmas journals that I've done in the past. So I've come back the next day after my PVA glue has dried, just for me to put my journal together. I'm very imprecise when I do this sort of thing. I don't measure when I do it, but I do often use a guide. So I'm like starting off just really gonna wing it, and then I realize I really need a guide. So I grab a piece of scrap paper just so that I can transfer my marks easily to the inside of these journals. So, but it's just eyeballed guides, it's not measured or anything. But it'll just make it a bit easier just for me to get it relatively straight, and also to help the holes line up better so that it can be nice and strong. So this is my favorite method for just a simple junk journal, is I just do a pretty simple stitch and it goes through the signature and then through the cover, and then I tie it on the inside. I am just using like a Pearl 8 embroidery thread. I just have a cheap awl which I picked up somewhere, I don't even remember where, 1,000 years ago, and I'm just using a fairly long needle that has a big eye that makes it really easy to thread. And I'm making sure that the ends of my thread are coming up either side of the central stitch, so that then when I tie the knots it's holding that stitch down, so everything's very well held. I haven't had a problem with this method. I'm pretty sure I saw someone doing something similar, and I've just done the quick and easy and lazy way, which is my favorite way, because the reason I am working in this journal is for the fun of it, and if I make it too complicated or make myself have to be too precise, I will lose the fun, and I don't want to do that. I have been watching some like art journal, sketchbook type binding tutorials recently, just because I have been interested in making some different types of books, like some more proper books, but I still want to do it in a way that isn't too fussy, but I want it to be more book-like, so I'm quite interested in doing that, but we will see. I have too many ideas and not enough time to get them all done in, so I just have to go with what is the most exciting in the moment. And in this moment, it is Christmas preparation. We actually have been decorating the front door. It's not something I've done in a few years, decorate the front door, but it's quite a cheerful thing. As this is coming together, I'm getting quite excited. I love how a junk journal looks like, and this is obviously a Jess style junk journal. I think there are lots and lots of different ways to do it, but this is my favorite way of doing it, with a book cover and a bunch of random pages. In the past, I've done ones that had a lot more random sized pages in it, and I like a little bit of that, but not too much. But I also just want to keep it a bit loose. Like, I don't want it to end up looking like a book that has been made professionally or anything. I want it to have that loose and floppy and, junky sort of look to it. I've been thinking a little bit about how I want to work in this journal. I don't want to have anything too rigid. I want to keep it loose, but hopefully I can record a bunch of things that we get up to over the Christmas season and end up with something relatively full at the end. So I think it's going to be a fun little journal to work in this year. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Let me know if you're working on some fun projects. I always like to be inspired by what you're working on, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.